Obviously, it was very much a product of its day. But what was it? Who was it that you were trying to write in the style of way back then?
Well, She's My Girl was my idol, was Richie Valens.
Yeah.
La Bamba. I actually auditioned for Delphi simply because I wanted to meet Richie Valens.
Yeah.
It was after it was Richie Valens and Bill Pittman played the same bass.
Really?
That it's called a tenor bass. And the other side was my other idol, Ricky Nelson. So If You Believe in Me was the A side. I don't know which. I think She's My Girl turned out to be the A side.
It was the A side.
Was it the A
side? Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, memory serves me well.
Okay,
yes.
So they went for the upbeat too.
Yeah.
The other was more like Ricky Nelson.
Yeah. And you were what, 15 when you wrote that?
Yeah, 14 and a half, 15.
Three Britishes. Then, we're skipping a couple of months now, you started to work with Darlene Love, of all people, before you started working with Betty Everett. But Darlene Love, was this pre-Spectre Love, or had she already signed for Phillies by then?
Refresh my memory. Where was I working with Darlene Love on?
Just before Can I Get to Know You Better, with Betty Everett. You did cut a couple of demos with Darlene Love.
Yes. I was looking to get a record with Jerry Butler and Betty Everett, a duet. So I wrote a couple songs called I think one was called Love Me. It was a demo. And Darlene was Faith. Yes, He's a Rebel.
Yes.
Had already been out.
That a little bit out of it.
Yes, it already been out. So yeah, working with her. You have to understand that the artists that we have this tremendous love and respect for really weren't getting paid anything. So Darlene was a working girl, and she would do sessions for $15.
Right.
And that was about all the money that you could afford to do a demo session with. What chills and fever you get.
Well, Phil was notorious for not paying anybody at any time.
Yes. That the truth came out, which no one would want to believe. It's like the mad uncle.
Oh, seriously was, wasn't it?
Yeah, seriously.
He was the Uncle Fester of Los Angeles, if there ever was one. And, Can I Get to Know You Better? Obviously, we played two versions of that today. One by Mark Winter and obviously the one by the Turtles. We'll come on to the Turtles a bit later.
Okay.
But I want to move on now to Kick That Little Foot, Sally Ann, which has an inordinate amount of references.
Slawson.
Which is, a peculiar. It means nothing to me. I know real building, but should I understand that reference?
It's sort of like the Bristol Stomp. It's sort of like it's a reference to a street in Los Angeles that the black teenagers would congregate, and they began to do a dance on the streets, and it's sort of like the twist, the mashed potato.
Okay.
It became a phenomenon in Los Angeles, and so Slawson is the dividing line, pretty much between the black area and the white area in those days.
Okay.
So Slawson Avenue became the name of the dance. Do the Slawson.
Right. Oh, okay.
So that's the point of reference.
It was a bit like the Pony or something like that, but it was regional to the extreme.
Exactly.
Fantastic. And then you started. You recorded a track called Pied Piping Music with Lloyd Thaxton. Now, to most people in Britain, Lloyd Thaxton is a name that you don't really conjure with much. I knew him because he recorded a track with Gary Usher called Image of a Surfer, probably late '64. But I was reading your wonderful tome, and then went off to Google Lloyd Thaxton to find out he was actually quite an established star over the other side of the pond. So how was it that he approached you to work with you?
Round Robin was on Domain Records. Lloyd had a regional hit television show similar to a dance party teenage dance party show, small version of American Bandstand,
Right.
regional for Los Angeles. Big Bopper had a hit. DJs across the country were beginning to realize that they had a turntable to play their own records on. So why not go in and cut a record?
Right.
So because Kick a Little Foot Sally Ann came out of such a small little independent label, Lloyd asked me if I'd write a song for him.
Right. Simple as that.
Simple as that.
And that, I mean, you say you're coming out of a small label. I mean, it literally was that, in every sense of the word, a garage band, wasn't it? It was literally a homemade whole operation, from writing to production to actually getting the shellac pressed, wasn't it, in those days?
It was, but they were impressive because they got Jack Nietzsche to do the arrangements.
Okay.
If you get Jack Nietzsche, that takes away the whole onus of being a small little label. You think on the cheap. They didn't do it on the cheap. I mean, they went for the best. They got the best.
Certainly it was in his case. Certainly was in his case.
Yeah.
Never got the kudos that he deserved as well. Respect him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I
Even
agree.
to this day.
I agree, but
He's a forgotten name
is he?
to most people on the street.
I mean,
Absolutely.
to most people on the street, yeah.
Yeah.
Most people on the street have trouble remembering their names.
Well, this is
But,
true. This is true. And give it another generation and they'll forget Phil as well, unfortunately. One of my favourite tracks, and you'll probably shoot me down in flames for saying this because it's probably not one of your favourites, is "He's My Man" by Anne Margaret.
Oh yeah.
Which I when I thought Anne Margaret can't be Anne Margaret, but it was Anne Margaret. And there is on there, quite possibly, the first use of the fuzz guitar. Brian Wilson got credit for introducing the sound on Little Honda, which was basically just a D-strum guitar. Lennon was doing that wonderful feedback on the hardware, but you were predating all of these people with the use of feedback. Now, it may have been a happy accident, as you define in your book. I think there is something in the wonders of the P.F.Sloan annals, which is going to describe the fact that that was actually an intentional piece of studio manipulation on your part at a very early age.
James, it was an intentional. It was a. First of all, working with Anne Margaret was astounding. 16 years old, most gorgeous woman in the world, and I happen to be a big fan of hers because her record, which went top 10, that blues record. You recall the name of it? I just don't understand. I think it was called. But I just don't understand.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
It was her first RCA Victor record. It was so good, so bluesy. Top 10. And to be honest with you, James, I don't know what they were doing, asking a 16-year-old kid to come and write the follow-up to the most beautiful woman in the world with the top 10 record. I don't understand it, but that's the way things work. So I did the best I could. Came up with 2 songs for her. Produced it, and during the production of it, one of the guitar tubes started splitting apart, and it split apart so perfectly that it just fuzzed completely out, and the engineer screamed, "What's that?" But more, can you keep it going? It's the first time they'd heard of fuzz. And it wasn't like, oh my God, get out of the studio, you're going to ruin the microphones. It wasn't that. It was like, can you make it work on cue? That kind of thing. I said, yeah, let's try it. So I would sit there and kick the thing. And so it might be, I don't know. I know that there's a couple of contenders.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a happy accident.
Yes, very happy accident.
Like most of us.
Yes, quite. You wouldn't have got away with it at Abbey Road, that's for sure. With the white suits, they would have said, oh, no, we can't have that.
Oh, yes.
It took them a long time to realise there was more to music than just white suits. I don't know, we might be stepping slightly out of time now, but you were approached by Bobby Darin, the great Bobby Darin, who at the time was probably at his peak, but certainly certainly heading towards his peak, to form a music publishing company with none other than Terry Melcher.
Yes.
Terry Melcher, for those of you who haven't listened to my Terry Melcher nights, was Doris Day's son. He was a wonderful man, a very good friend of Dennis Wilson's. There are some stories about the pair of them which cannot possibly be repeated at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But he was also quite a gifted musician. And the idea of the three of you forming something like United Artists but of music would seem too good an opportunity to have passed up. Was it all due to the, how can we say it, the people at Dunhill that it never progressed further than just talking stage?
It would have been a fabulous. It would have been a fabulous venture. To have been noticed by Bobby Darin as an artist and as a songwriter was perhaps too much for the people at Dunhill to recognize. But basically, from what I understood, they wanted Bobby Darin in their fold, and Bobby Darin was there to get me into his fold.
Yeah.
So that was the first tug of war that was going on. It didn't develop, but as we know, Bobby went on from that place into folk music.
Yes, yeah.
So his heart was in folk music, even when he was doing the bow tie and tuxedo and everything like that.
Would that have given you control of your own publishing back then? Had you formed that company with Terry and Bobby?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
So they had a lot to lose then by letting you walk away into that situation.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to go on now to where I really discovered you was on a Jan and Dean compilation album my father got for me when I was 13 years old. And there was, ironically, 2 baggage tracks on it, one of which was Tell 'Em I'm Surfing, which...
that Jan and Dean did?
Yes.
Yeah, but our tracks, yeah.
Yeah, it was patently a different sound to the rest of the tracks on the album. There was something about it that just sounded just not quite Jan and Deanish to me, and I loved it. And the other track that was on Ironic was Anywhere the Girls Are, which had nothing to do with Jan and Dean. It was actually credited to the Fantastic Baggers. So it was one track on a Jan and Dean, it was the weirdest thing ever, but I loved it. Now it was number 1 in, correct me if I'm wrong, in Hawaii, Australia and Indonesia. And at the time it was number 1 in Australia. You were heading off to do the KPOI show in Hawaii. I can remember Brian Wilson, in one of his moments of fleeting lucidity, was talking about that tour. And yeah,
he remembers it.
He remembers it. And what he remembers most is that Jan Berry was there. And Jan Berry ran out with a can of shaving foam and sprayed Mike right across the face, all over the face, and just ran off stage. Now the boys thought it was funny. Mike went into one of his, I'm not the holy man of rock and roll anymore moods, and Brian says, that's what I remember. I said, but you were there. The Baggies were number 1, and somehow, for reasons that I still can't fathom out, you weren't allowed to tour as the Baggies and wound up having to play the entire set for everybody else as a bass player.
Yes. Because I was brought over as a guitar player, but they brought over Glenn Campbell.
Okay.
And Glenn Campbell was not going to play bass. Glenn Campbell was going to play guitar, so they were short of bass player. And they asked me, do you know how to play bass? And I've watched bass players play, so I figured, yeah, I know how to play bass. So I ended up playing for 18 acts, Peter and Gordon, Jan and Dean, Ray Peterson. It's a dream come true. It's a rock and roll dream come true.
So have you got any fond memories of that tour?
Oh yeah, it's the first time I was ever on stage with
really?
A rock show.
Oh, okay.
And I'm playing. My fingers are bleeding. Al Rivington of the Mau fame turns around and sees my fingers bleeding, and just says, "Play through it." Okay. In the book, the story that sticks out was going outside the auditorium and then being locked out. Couldn't get back in. And nobody would let me back in.
I remember reading that sequence.
Carl Wilson shows up, and I was good friends with Carl. And all of a sudden, Carl doesn't recognize me. Something I changed, he changed. I don't know. Somebody changed too quickly.
Now, he would have been, what, 64 was that? Late
64,
so he
yeah.
would have been, what, 18 years old,
Yeah.
17, 18?
Yeah. So, Carl, it's me, Phil. Sorry, I don't know you, Phil. I don't know you. So, Carl, I was just with you in the dressing room. No, you'll have to talk to someone else who just closes the door. I'm hoping he had a good life. I'm hoping he just rolled over.
Oh, of course.
I'm hoping
yeah.
that he did.
Yeah. That would be a nice thought.
That would be
Yeah.
yes.
That would be a nice resolution to that scenario.
Yes.
Yes, that hadn't occurred to me actually. Yes. Well, now we're going to go on to something that we actually discussed prior to sitting down, the Tammy Show, and the track "Here They Come From All Over the World." And I was wanting to know about Music City, which was an alternate version with more backing vocals, an entire chorus. Let's go down to Music City. Let's go down to Music City. Underneath it, "Here They Come From All Over the World." And lyrical corrections to the third verse, where it's the Rolling Stones from London Town are going to be there. And you actually said that might have been the original version because you corrected the lyrics before Jan and Dean actually recorded the thing.
There's a blind spot there, James. I'm sorry. I'm trying to. As I was telling James earlier when he was telling me about this particular thing, there's a blind spot as to which actually came first. I'm trying to grab at the clues because London Town, the Rolling Stones from London Town, sounds like, well, that's where they're from. So the original was the Rolling Stones from Liverpool, but I'm having trouble placing that. Whether Music City was something that maybe Jan had written, the lyrics that Jan had written.
What, just the third verse?
Well, obviously they changed the name the name got changed from Music City to Here They Come From All Over the World.
Right.
I remember coming up with that title, and I remember being excited about it. But
Well, JJ's, PF is going to sing us a few songs now.
That standing over in the corner, Mary's looking for her lover. Went overseas 2 days ago, I hope she doesn't have to find another. Some say these things will never change, others say they're getting better. Me, I'm standing in the rain, waiting for a change in the weather. No, I'm not saying how I think it should be. All I'm saying is that it don't look right to me. We gotta try and find a new design. We gotta try and find a new design. Circle don't bend or twist, no matter how hard you stretch it. God made man to be born free. When did he learn to forget it? A dream is a dream if only it's seen, otherwise it's soon forgotten. It's like an apple sitting in a tree. If it's not picked, it gets rotten. No, I'm not saying how I think it should be. All I'm saying is that it don't look right to me. No. Gotta try and find a new design. Gotta try to find new design. Don't try and understand me. You never could do that. And in the end you wind up feeling hurt. I am a man with too many problems that are pounding on my brain. So if you want me, you take me for what I'm worth. I don't pretend to be a saint. My sins, they are many. Oh, but there's no one perfect in this universe. And though you think I'm weird, please don't try and fix me, dear. 'Cause if you'll want me, you'll take me for what I'm worth. Hear a howling wind outside my door. There's restlessness within. Oh, I'm like a rain cloud that one day may burst. We both know I'll be leaving, and if one little tear you grieve, oh, that's alright, 'cause that's all I'm really worth. But if you think about me in your lonesome hours, all in all, your lips, there's a sweet word and not a curse. Then I'll be coming back one day when my worrying is over. Or if you want me, you take me for what I'm worth. And if you want me, you take me for what I'm worth.
I'm just still putting pieces together. I'll have to get my detectives on it. Yeah.
I will have to send it to you so you can listen to it at your leisure and try and work out exactly which bits, because it's definitely been on some of that falsetto, and it's definitely patently not on the vast majority of it. That's for sure.
It sounds like an early incarnation of the tune. So it sounds like 90% of it was there, but they didn't know where they were going with it. But the song was there pretty much.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's an early incarnation of it.
Yeah. Ironically, with more expansive backing vocals as well. Quite why they thinned them out.
Well, money is no object, and Jan is a perfectionist.
Yeah.
So it didn't really matter about money. It was the sound that he wanted. You had to respect that.
Yeah. Because he was far from the clown that he's portrayed. He was actually quite a meticulous producer, wasn't he? I mean, he even charted his drum tracks, drum charts out, didn't he?
Well, meticulous is not really quite the right definition. A maestro.
Right.
Really teaching Brian Wilson. Where do you think Brian picked up these things? It was from Jan. Jan was doing outrageous things. 2 drummers, hundreds of limiters, variations on echoes, variations on sound frequency. This was all new stuff, way new stuff. And Jan was really into it. No, and you're absolutely right, James. He was a clown on the outside, but inside he was a lovable tyrant.
Right.
And you loved him because he made great records. And if he wasn't making great records, we'd have strung him up like Mussolini.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I absolutely adore Jan making records, and I don't think he's ever been given the credit he's deserved. Simply because there was always a comic angle to the majority of the lyrics, and I think that's been basically his downfall really in terms of his legacy. I mean, what he was doing was absolute genius. You look at Dead Man's Curve, the horn arrangements. You look at Drag City. There was so much. I mean, that was a true production in every sense of the word. You know, and just people say, "Oh, it's not Brian Wilson." You know, as if being Jamboree was not as good as being Brian Wilson. You know, you get him on the beach, and I don't care what you say, Jamboree was a prince. But that's just me looking back with candy-coloured glasses of a year that I wasn't even born in, but all the same.
I'm here to back you up on that. I was there, and I'm telling you what you're saying this up.
Which is lovely to hear. Which is lovely to hear. He just had no recognition now, especially amongst, even my generation. But I want to talk about Kisses for My Baby and Unless You Care, which doesn't really take us much forward in time. I think we're going to be ending this conversation around about 1965. But you started working with a Canadian by the name of Terry Black, who you managed to carry right through to almost Elvis status within his own country. Much to it appears the chagrin of everybody around you as usual. So can you, in the very limited time that we have been allotted, talk us through the career of you and Terry Black and see if we can come out the other side with some form of ray of light?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, let's just say that this was a 16-year-old from Canada who had gone in and recorded at a very cheap recording studio with no backing. He did a song called Them Bones, Them Dry Bones.
What alliteration of them bone, dry bones,
Really? Dry bones. And the other side was Cinnamon, where you gonna run to? Cinnamon. And it got played on some local radio stations. And just so your listeners know, Canada did not embrace the idea of their own artists. They really were Anglophiles, American-philes, actually. They really weren't into their own artists. Everything American was what they wanted. And it did fairly well in a local market, enough so that the manager thought, I'd like to give this kid a national shot in the United States. He came down, I don't know how he got attached to Dunhill, it worked. But I had written a song when I was 16 for Elvis called Unless You Care, and it's one of the first songs that I really thought had promise, simply because it was spilling my heart.
Yes,
at 16. It's very simple lyric, and it's very easy to go overboard, but it's really my heart in it. And I demoed it for Elvis, and it didn't get very far at all. So when Terry Black came in, we were given the assignment of producing it, and I wanted Unless You Care, and another song I was working on, Can't We Go Somewhere, which is sort of off of a Leonard Bernstein kind of thing, and got Glenn Campbell. Yes. There's too many Jews in that sentence. Got Glenn. Okay, we got Glenn here. But we got Glenn in on the electric 12-string, and he came up. But there was a movie called The Blob with Steve McQueen.
CF58,
59. So Glenn Campbell comes up with it. Boom. 12-string electric guitar, number one, 14 weeks. Turn the record over, number one, 5 more weeks. Double-sided hit. Biggest record Canada had ever had from a Canadian artist.
Wow.
Boom, but the Canadians were not ready to wake up quite yet.
Okay. 19 weeks out of the year and they're still not ready to wake up.
Yes, they're not about to wake up. This is, so Terry, we come out with this next record, and I wanted to get him away from Elvis. I had heard the Beatles demos, and I knew the Beatles were going to be the biggest thing in the world. Nobody believed in the Beatles, but I did. And I got Terry off of some songs that I wrote, hearing some early Beatles songs. And those went to number one. Say It Again, and Everyone Can Tell.
Did you offer him Tip of the Tongue? Because that would have been ironic, because that was a title of a McCartney demo from about 1958.
Yes, I saw that, yeah. Tip of My Tongue became, the follow-up to Grassroots, Things I Should Have Said, or something like that. Which was done sort of Mick Jagger-ish.
It was ironically a Stones type of track,
exactly,
with an old Beatles title.
I don't think he was offered that. But I wrote a Medea and the Bellmans kind of thing called Little Liar, and that went to #1. And what I have to say about every one of those songs were that they were unique in their own way. Little Liar had this 1959 Medea and the Bellmans stomping thing going on, and I'm not that far away from 1959 at that point. 1959 is
of course, yeah,
just a
couple of years,
heartbeat away.
Yeah.
So, Terry was doing fantastic. As happy as a kid could be. Was going to be in an Elvis Presley movie.
Oh, really?
Yes, he was offered a part in an Elvis Presley movie. He's going to play Elvis's younger cousin. What a career he would have had.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think being in Elvis movies would have really helped anyone's career, do you?
Yes, in terms of worldwide fame
Oh, of course.
recognition. Ricky Nelson played off of John Wayne.
Of course.
In Rio Bravo. That gave him.
Fabulous.
Yeah, of course. That's what. Why else would you want to watch
Glenn
John
Campbell
Wayne?
as well
Exactly.
acted off John Wayne as well.
Exactly. So that gave him what's known as credibility, right?
Right.
And then he ran into trouble. He wanted money. He wanted to get paid.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
heavens! You actually think that this comes with money, do you? No. So sorry. And that forced him to leave. And it took him years to get over it because he treated him very badly. He treated almost everybody badly. But he came back in 1979, got a song in Meatballs, which was a
Great movie.
and
Kids of my age.
and a friend who lived in Canada, who is now married to Brian's ex-wife, Marilyn.
Oh, okay, Daniel.
Daniel.
Yes.
You know Daniel?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Daniel
Rutherford.
Daniel Rutherford. Yeah. Daniel Rutherford belied and bemoaned the fact that Terry's album is not out there. Black Plague is not out there. It's being bootlegged for 20 years. Terry is not making any money at all.
Yeah.
And we tried for 7 years to track down Tolly, to track down Arc Records. And they said no, all the masters are gone. They've been burned. They've been thrown away, and I just wouldn't accept that. Just kept persisting and persisting. Oh, finally, the janitor walked into the janitor's closet. Oh my God, these are Terry Black tapes.
Wow.
So they remastered them and they put them out. It was an instantaneous success. I mean, there's like 5, 6, 7 #1 records on there and Terry's career took off again. He became a huge star in Canada, going on concert tours. He got his own radio show. He became a disc jockey. He got the respect that he had
Been denied.
denied.
So we are. I'm just looking at Sangeeta. She's telling us to wind up, but not even. We haven't even. We don't want to stop. We haven't even got down to discussing sins of the family or what's the matter with me yet. We're still stuck in late '64, but Sangeeta is watching the clock more rapidly than I am.
Let's finish late 1964.
Okay.
Late 1964.
We will throw in obviously we have to mention What's the Matter with Me because it now is the title of your just released autobiography. A wonderful Dylan-esque, I should say, probably Guthrie-esque lyric, written at a very young age and as insightful as probably Carry That Weight was from McCartney, who wrote that at the age of 26 or whatever. So,
Thank you.
Just can you just quickly talk us through what that song meant to you when you wrote it? Because it's an incredibly insightful song for a young man.
Thank you, and it's thank you for putting attention on that song, because you have to understand that up until that time I'm writing surf songs, and for this to come through me, and I'm by no means stupid. I'm no means a Rhodes Scholar, but I have a fairly good mind. I have a fairly intelligent output and a fairly intelligent heart. When this came through me, I recognized it as something special, something that I instantaneously recognized as having meaning. You can write a Terry Black Unless You Care at 16 and say to yourself, that has meaning.
Yes.
And so I'm going to continue being a songwriter. Maybe I can hit that again. With What's Exactly the Matter with Me came through me. I was ready to devote the rest of my life to.
Was that the first P.F.Sloan song?
The very first was Eve,
That is, yeah, okay.
but it was the same night.
Yes.
It was the same night. There were 5 songs in that night. What's Exactly the Matter with Me struck me exactly where I wanted to be, Guthrie-esque, and yet not in the 30s or the 40s, but right now. And I realized that there was some poetic spirit that found me worthy as an instrument or as a voice. So I wanted to be open to that. That was something I wanted to hitch my life to,
Yeah.
if I could.
And it was at that point that you felt that P.F.Sloan was a conduit for that spirituality, that from that moment onwards you became so much more than
I
the
needed,
Sloan
yeah.
and Barry type of
I needed to
machine.
protect. I needed to protect that.
Yeah.
I needed to protect that. I needed to keep that away, the best I could. Keep that away from being corrupted, and couldn't quite succeed in doing that.
But you have. Time has shown that it has really borne fruit. The song stands up as great now as it ever was, and obviously has led itself to being the title of your wonderful autobiography. I want to take this opportunity to thank you hugely on behalf of all my listeners, and even greater for me, because it's been a lifelong ambition to have had the opportunity to speak to you.
So now we can all die?
Well, absolutely. I can die happy now. So that to Jules the other day, she said, well, get some royalties in first. But, you know, we got as far as 1964 on a life, and we've still got 50 years to go.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you,
It's been an absolute joy.
Likewise.
And if you would sign my little poster here, as a memory of my day, I can then, because we've just done one just for you for the day. Thank you, sir.
The deed
And
is
Jules and
done.
I have done one for you too.
Oh, thank
So
you.
you've got a little memento of your trip to sunny London town.
I think that will fit exactly in my carry-on case.
You think? well, JJers, we're going to play some more wonderful P.F.Sloan. There we go.
Well, we're off for an Indian dinner.
I know you are. I know you are.
Give my love to your fans. Tell them I'd be nowhere without
No, thank you.